I never believed a dog could change my life. To me, dogs were just pets, companions for those who needed company, but never something I imagined growing attached to. Revised. I never believed a dog could change my life. To me, dogs were merely pets, companions for those who needed company, but never something I imagined becoming emotionally attached to. Fate, however, has its own way of surprising us. When my husband gifted me a German Shepherd named Atlas, I viewed him simply as a guard dog, a living alarm system meant to protect me while Ethan was away. My husband, Ethan, worked in international business, which frequently took him overseas for weeks at a time. I had grown accustomed to his absences, though they never became any easier to endure. "He'll keep you company, make you feel less alone," Ethan had said as he handed me Atlas's leash. I smiled and accepted it, but deep down I felt indifferent. I had learned to live with solitude. I was never someone who leaned on animals for comfort. Ethan is my anchor, my light. His presence fills this house with laughter and warmth. Without him, everything feels a little colder. The nights stretch on endlessly. We spoke every day through video calls, but hearing his voice never truly soothed the ache his absence left behind. At first, Atlas was simply there, silent, observant, always watching from a corner. He followed me from room to room but never demanded anything. I fed him, walked him, and absent-mindedly patted his head. I treated him more as a responsibility than a companion. But Atlas didn't seem to mind. He simply watched, waiting with those intelligent, soulful eyes. Then one night everything changed. After finishing my nightly chores, I retreated to the bedroom, seeking comfort in small, desperate ways. I ran my hands over my arms, closing my eyes, pretending for a moment that Ethan was beside me, his hands wrapping around me in that familiar, calming embrace. Wrapped in a blanket, I touched myself, not from passion, but from a deep, aching loneliness, a hunger for connection. Lost in thought, I didn't hear the door creak open. Soft footsteps padded across the floor. My loyal German Shepherd had nudged the door open with his nose and stood there, his head tilted, his eyes filled with what looked like human concern. I offered a faint smile and patted the empty space beside me. "Come here, boy," I whispered. Without hesitation, Atlas leapt onto the bed, resting his chin gently on my lap. His warmth seeped through the thin fabric of my nightgown, and I found myself stroking his thick fur. A strange, overwhelming sense of peace enveloped me. As I rubbed his belly, I shifted closer to where he lay. I hadn't realized how large he was. When my hand brushed across his side, he let out a soft growl, not one of warning but of understanding. "You always know when I need you, don't you?" I murmured, scratching behind his ears. Atlas sighed, his tail thumping softly against the mattress. In that quiet moment, his presence felt like a balm for my loneliness. He wasn't Ethan, but he understood. He stayed. And sometimes that was enough. I lay there with Atlas curled against me, realizing that love doesn't always arrive with grand declarations or sweeping gestures. Sometimes, love is found in a dog's steady breath beside you, the way he leans into your touch, the silent assurance that you're not truly alone. Tomorrow, I would wake up and go through the same motions, still waiting for Ethan to return. But for now, I found solace in the warmth of a four-legged companion who always seemed to know exactly what I needed. Another night, another storm. Heavy rain battered the windows, and wind howled through the eaves. I was trying to lock the back door, but the key wouldn't turn no matter how hard I tried. Fear gnawed at me. What if someone could get in? Ethan wasn't home. I was alone. My heart raced, my hands trembled, panic creeping up my spine. A warm nudge at my hand startled me. Atlas stood beside me, his eyes calm and alert. He wasn't just present, he was communicating. I stepped aside, confused, as he moved with purpose toward a small drawer near the kitchen. He pawed it twice, then looked back at me. Perplexed, I opened it. Buried beneath old receipts and forgotten papers was a spare set of keys. I gasped. I had completely forgotten about them. Rushing to the door, I used the spare key and it turned easily. Relief flooded me. But more than that, A strange warmth bloomed in my chest. I looked at Atlas, sitting there with a knowing look, his tail tapping gently against the floor. That night, I sat on the floor beside him for the first time. His head rested heavily on my lap, his warmth sinking into my skin. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel quite so alone. Days blurred into weeks. I began noticing things I'd once overlooked. The way Atlas positioned himself between me and the door when someone knocked, how he seemed to sense when anxiety overwhelmed me, pressing his wet nose into my palm or curling up against me when I sat in silence too long. One evening, while making dinner, I found myself talking to him. Not just casual remarks, but real conversation. Before I knew it, I was telling him about my day, my fears, my thoughts. Things I never dared say aloud. He listened without judgment, without interruption. Somehow that was enough. I had always thought love was loud, full of proclamations and promises. But Atlas taught me that love could be quiet too. Could be patience. It could be a gentle presence that remains, even when the world feels hollow. I didn't know it yet, but Atlas would soon save me in a way I could never have imagined. Time passed, and Atlas became an anchor in my life. My husband's trips grew longer. His calls became less frequent. I understood, but the loneliness didn't fade. In the stillness of the house, Atlas's presence filled the void. One evening, after a late trip to the market, I noticed a black sedan parked across the street. Its engine idled. I brushed it off. But when it appeared the next night, and the night after, I began to feel a creeping unease. I hurried inside and locked the door. Atlas, sensing my anxiety, pressed close to me, his ears alert. I tried to rationalize the fear clawing at me, telling myself it was nothing. But then one night I heard it, a soft rustle outside the bedroom window. The crunch of gravel. Someone was out there. My heart pounded. Atlas was already at the window, a low growl rumbling in his chest. A sharp bark tore through the silence. Footsteps retreated. Whoever had been there was gone. Barely slept. Atlas stayed by my side, a warm shield against fear. I called Ethan the next morning, my voice shaking as I told him everything. He was concerned but busy. "Maybe it's nothing," he said. "I'll try to come home soon." But I knew better than to wait for rescue. I reinforced the locks, installed cameras. Every evening, Atlas and I walked the perimeter of the house, alert, united. Then one evening we saw him. A tall, lean man loitering near the end of the street. His posture was casual, but something about him unsettled me. Atlas growled low. The man turned slightly, sensing our eyes on him, then slipped into the shadows. That night I checked every door and window twice. Atlas paced, restless. The next day, I saw the man again, this time in broad daylight. He was chatting with neighbors, laughing, shaking hands. And then, as if sensing my gaze, he looked up. Eyes met. He smiled, slow and polite, and raised a hand in greeting. "That's Luke," said Mrs. Ramsey, my elderly neighbor, as she passed. "He moved in recently, helping out with the neighborhood security committee." "Security committee," I echoed, forcing a smile. But dread coiled in my stomach. Atlas stood close, his body tense. That night sleep wouldn't come. Every creak felt ominous. Then after midnight a soft click. The backyard gate. Atlas growled low. I grabbed my phone, fumbling for help. Then a crash. The back door burst open. Luke stood there, breathing hard, eyes wild. "I knew you'd be alone," he said, his voice low. "I've been watching you." Terror surged through me. I stumbled back, screaming, "Get out!" But he only smiled and lunged. Before he could reach me, Atlas leapt. A blur of fury, teeth, and muscle. He clamped down on Luke's arm, dragging him back with incredible force. Luke struggled, cursing. Atlas held firm. Then, a flash of silver. A knife. "No!" I screamed. The blade sank deep into Atlas. He whimpered, legs quivering. Luke shoved him aside. Atlas crumpled. Something inside me broke. I grabbed a heavy glass vase and swung with everything I had. Luke staggered. I swung again, and again, until he dropped. Sirens, flashing lights, police flooded the house. Luke was dragged away in handcuffs, blood dripping from his temple. But I barely noticed. All I saw was Atlas. I cradled him in my arms, begging, pleading. Just a little longer. His breaths were shallow. His golden eyes fluttered. And then, he was still. The officer tried to pull me away, his voice soft. But I clung to Atlas, refusing to let go. 'Cause how could I? He had saved me. My protector. My friend. My family. Without him the house felt hollow. But the strength he had given me, the fierce, courageous love he had shown, would live inside me forever.